Welcome to the Public Voice Salon. We're an open dialogue on culture and ideas with a particular focus on education. And it is our great delight today to be with Mr. David Burke, who is a culinary leader. David is also one of the most famous celebrity chefs in the world. After his humble beginnings down the Jersey Shore, he's worked his way up to the pinnacle of the culinary world, building an international empire of restaurants that includes the Vantanas in Fort Lee, New Jersey, the town which gave birth to the movie industry a little over a century ago as the original Hollywood. So it makes perfect sense to catch up with David Burke in this historic location, since he is himself a charismatic star in the world of restaurants. But we would especially like to focus on education in this interview with David. So let's begin with creativity and innovation. David, you are the first person to put bacon on a clothesline. Bacon on a clothesline. And you're also the man who put cheesecake you made cheesecake into a lollipop.
Yeah.
How do you get your ideas? Like I know Thomas Edison was famous for he would take the naps, and he would get a brainstorm. How does the David Burke mind work in terms of coming up with these?
I said this. The creative process is varied, and everybody has their ways of designing a dish, or and it's not like you just sit down. Right now, I have so many experiences. And being able to, and once you're creative for decades and decades and decades, it becomes a library in your head of why can't I do this? And lack of fear is a good way to say that.
Fear.
Create, because confidence and lack of fear.
Yes.
And if you're not in the game, playing the game, you can't succeed with creativity. So you got to be in the mix. You have to be making things to say, let me take this and try it. You can design things in your head like an architect.
Yes.
You can borrow from one guy's repertoire to another. I can write things down. Sometimes I'll see this.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, you know what that says?
Yeah.
I can put an egg on top of it. That's what that says. I can put that reminds me of a bone marrow bone. So I can look at an object and create a dish around it, like a salt brick. I can do stuff. I've done a lot with the salt. We've got a patent on that.
Yeah.
I could look at a coffee cup and say I could do a coffee creme brulee in there, or something like that, or a cappuccino mousse. But that's one thing. The other part is traveling.
Right.
Creating a trend or being ahead of it, dietary stuff, geography, seasonality, wow factor, visual appeal, textural stuff, and then art. Art is another thing. Art, you can be influenced by an artist to maybe create something on a plate or be the artist.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, but you got to be open-minded. People have told me that I have 1,000 Post-its at once in my head waiting to be reminders of, like I'll keep something on my desk for a year.
Yes.
A can, a tin can of cake, and something because I think it'll be cool to use, and then one day it'll be like, I got it.
Yes, yes.
I created the Swordfish Shop years ago. Alan Stillman and I signed a deal. He's the steakhouse king of Smith & Walensky at the time.
Okay.
I was only fine dining. And I had this idea about a big fish chop because I had a little fish chop one day when I took the head of a trout off and I saw the neck and I was like, that looks like a baby rabbit chop, tiny.
Okay.
And I had written on the napkin, small fish, small chop, big fish, big chop. And I had that napkin on near my headboard. I used to collect napkins because we were out drinking all the time. So we'd write things on a napkin and put it. We didn't have cell phones, so put it in our notes.
Right.
And I remember signing a deal with him, and I finally got down to Fish Market, got a swordfish collar. I cut the fish right in front of him in a construction zone, and he was like, he didn't know nobody knew it, saw it. He goes, you're an absolute genius. He goes, this is a genius thing. I said, the only problem is only two cuts per fish. So we did the whole Tour d'Argent thing where we give the numbers of the sword. This is 92. Sold 10,000 swordfish a year.
Wow. So no wonder the French love you, because, you're an artist. That's the thing. So we have the portrait of an artist as a young chef. How about that?
Yeah.
David Burke, born in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have memories of Brooklyn?
No.
Okay.
No, I left as a baby. You know,
Okay.
I grew up in Monmouth County, New Jersey, not far from where I live now. No.
Monmouth County, all the way. My parents live in Ocean Grove.
yeah,
We go
okay.
down every summer. In fact, whenever we visit my parents, we always go to Asbury Park.
Sure.
And that is the first time I heard about your work in Asbury Park. There was a restaurant that you were involved with at
Yeah,
one point there.
yeah.
Yeah. But here we are in beautiful Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Yeah, we're going up and down the Parkway and the Turnpike. So we've got 7 properties now in New Jersey. So
Now, you and I, my friend, are old enough to remember when New Jersey was like the joke of America. I mean, really, Johnny Carson was making jokes. We were the butt. And you, one of the things I love about you is that you helped to give some dignity back in class, because there was a time, I remember not too long ago, when you were in New York with sophisticated people, and as soon as you say, oh, I'm from New Jersey, they would look at you like that, And I don't feel that's the same anymore. And I feel like something is shifting, and we got, between Springsteen and between even shows like The Sopranos and David Burke. So, how did you...
well,
Jersey boys
I had a lot of pride in Jersey as a kid.
yeah.
Well, I grew up in Monmouth County. I had the beach. We had the horse track. We had horse farms. More importantly, Colts Neck, Homedale,
Yes.
Rumson. I worked in that town. Sandy Hook, to be in the, and then you had Asbury. You had the coolness of Red Bank and Asbury, and the scenery was amazing.
Oh, wow.
And they put the ferries in,
Yeah.
and you had personality. You had grit, determination. You were close to New York. Most of the parents were blue collar people that came down and out of the city.
Right.
So we were the first generation growing up, and like my dad didn't have a yard. He grew up in Bed-Stuy. He was like, this is, so they put a lot. So this was like hopes and dreams and goals. And they made you work for your money. I mean, you had to, I had a paper route. I had to,
Right.
man, my dad's like,
course.
nothing was handed down, man. He's like, you want something, you go get it. But the ability to go get it was there, and the opportunity was there. The opportunity for me to be a chef
Yes.
was there. I didn't just, I created opportunity.
Right.
I saw something I liked. It's like a running back. I saw a hole and I ran through it. But I didn't see a hole that was this big. I saw an opportunity to do something I liked that was creative, that was part of a team,
Right.
that gave me a lot of satisfaction and gratification of doing something on a daily basis, and growth potential. And also non-traditional work.
Right.
Not sitting in an office doing what everybody else does. And I had to persuade my dad about it
Yeah.
because he was like,
Right.
he's like, you want to be, this
Right.
is the 70s.
Exactly.
All the cooks I worked with were hippies from the Vietnam War, or people that were from a different country, or beer drinking, smoking pot.
Right.
So I'm a dishwasher, and I'm falling in love with the kitchen camaraderie and the hierarchy.
Oh,
The
okay.
chef.
Yes.
Listen, the chef had 2 beautiful girlfriends and 2 Corvettes, and I'm like,
Wow.
I can do that. I want to be him. You're influential. You're 15 years old, and you're like,
That's right.
I don't know. I don't want to walk around with a stethoscope, but I want to be that guy. And we had all the rock stars playing at the local arts center, staying in our hotel. And they'd come through the kitchen, hang out with the chefs, and do their thing, right? So I tell my dad I want to be a chef. We're fighting over the beer drinking age and what time to come home at night. I'm a straight A student. I get out, and I'm on my way to graduate in 3 years. So I'm good in that department. I'm good in sports, but I'm not good at following his rules. So we make a deal.
Okay.
First, he sits me down. I said, he goes, you got to figure out what you're going to do with your life. I said, well, I'm a freshman in high school. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I want to be a dentist, maybe I want to be a carpenter, architect, maybe I want to be, I said, but then I started working in a restaurant. I'm like, I really think I want to be a cook, a chef. So he's like, so he sits me down, he goes, his name's David too. He goes, David, let me talk to you. I said, okay. We never really had, he's like, he goes, let me explain something. He goes, I know, you might not notice, but he goes, I know you smoke pot. And he's a real strict guy. And he goes, I just didn't realize how much.
Oh, jeez.
Because he goes, why would you want to be a chef? What do you think? Honestly, he was floored. He was like, why would you want to work that hard? Because back then, you're talking 77, 76, it was not a profession. Being a chef was like being a janitor or a maid, was like being a service worker.
Was not glamorous as it is now, yeah.
Well, it's really not that glamorous.
Yeah.
It appears.
Yeah.
For some of us at a higher level, or baseball players glamorous, right? But not for the guys in the minor leagues. Not for the guys in the college.
Correct.
Not for the guys that don't make it to the. So the struggle and the climb is struggle. I'll tell you, it is a struggle, and the climb is grueling.
Yeah.
It takes years. Maybe not takes years. But here's another good point. You work 80 hours a week. So if you have 5 years experience, you really have 10. If you compare it to another business, right? When someone works 40, 35, 40 hours a week and you're working 80, you're getting twice as much experience, and you're doing it in real time and learning. Every day is a learning. Every day is school, because you learn something in a kitchen every day if you're with a progressive kitchen.
Right.
So you can really become a good chef at a young age because of the amount of experience.
Yes. Wow.
Well, as we're sitting at this table here, Claudia, see if you can get a close-up of that picture of David on the wall back there, that painting of David Burke. We're in David Burke land here today, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the empire of one of the major celebrity chefs of our world. Since you see that picture now, my dad...
That picture is, guess what year that was?
What year?
96.
96. Okay, so we're a little slightly
96.
different.
Robert Mondavi Culinary Award of Excellence. That was the award.
Right.
A plate or a medal. They gave you a huge. The year that I won, Nobu won, myself. They did it for about 5 years for 5 chefs each, and then they just stopped doing it. I think the Mondavis got a little older, but it was a great honor. I'm telling you, the company we were in, it was really good, and that's what. Now that's what's brilliant about that is it's art.
Yes.
It's a great memory, and the idea is you hang it in your restaurant because we're gonna hang it out at home.
Wow.
Too big,
Yes.
and you're never gonna throw that away. Because a plate and a medal, it gets tucked away in an office somewhere at home. This is, and it's great to see that. So I walked by without reminding me, but. That was Park Avenue Cafe '96, where we did the chocolate pork bench, pastrami salmon.
Pastrami salmon. Now, who would have thought of putting those two together, pastrami and salmon? How did that?
I worked in Norway.
Okay.
I made gravlax every day for the family. I was a chef at a very wealthy person's home, a family, one of the big families of Norway. This was right after college graduation at Culinary Institute of America. They recommended me, and I got chosen. I was like, okay. Norway. I'm like, where the hell is Norway? Right? And so it got me to Europe.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Everything paid. Wow. Worked in a beautiful mansion on the fjord. And then when I was done, I traveled through Europe. And then I got the itch. Then I realized, you know what, I can live in France or Italy or whatever without speaking the language and still get by.
Right.
Norway, they speak English, very well educated.
Yes.
And so sort of a lot of the other countries. But in France, you're not going to. In the kitchen, you can get by. But you know what? I'm like, I didn't care. I said, I'm going back. So and then a couple of years later, I went back to France and worked. And you know what? You deal with the struggles of the language, but you know what? You're learning, man. You're like a kid. You figure. And I see when people come here to work and they're struggling with the language. Right. I'm like, that's why the kitchens are great, because you can give somebody something to do, show them, and you don't have to. They're not sitting on a computer. They have to read. Dice these, cut these, peel these, do this, and then come and see me in a half hour, and we'll get you. And you feed them, and there's a language there. It fits the table. That's what puts people together.
It does. It unites people. And I'm going to say one thing now, that this is a whole world that I knew very little about before people like Anthony Bourdain and also Guy Fieri. We started watching the Guy Fieri show, and this is the last show that I would have thought that I would have got into. But there was something about the driving around, and the part that we loved was the meeting the people afterwards, and of course Bourdain, and I'd like to go a little bit more into detail about that, because you did have a little bit of a thing with him, but you got to give the man credit for the pioneering work in terms of making this a household thing, in terms of the celebrity chef. What happened with Anthony Bourdain? It's complicated, right?
What happened with his life?
It's sad. It's sad. I know
he was.
Well, I'll tell you. I don't know exactly what happened. Well, obviously, he died, right? And one of the pressures and stresses in the restaurant business is drugs and alcohol. It's probably in the top business that does these types of things. A couple things lead to that. It's the type of work. It's the hours. If you look at working in a restaurant in New York City, you get out of work at 12 o'clock at night. Now, what are you going to do at 12? Very little. You're going to party, right? And cities open late, and waiters have cash, cooks make money, and you've just spent 12 hours, no exaggeration, maybe 10, maybe 12, maybe 15, standing on your feet in a hot kitchen, killing yourself. And you're physically, your feet are in pain, you're dehydrated, you're worked up, and you got to wind down. And for the married men and women, for them to rush home when their spouses and kids are sleeping, they got to be quiet. So you need a release. So the city, that's perfect. Now, so I used to live right down the street here in Fort Lee. I'd come home at 5 in the morning. My doorman would be like, fuck. And I would say to him, I said, well, 5 in the morning. I'd say that, but if I worked till 5 and came home at 10, that'd be normal. So I went out to, we went out, we had a few drinks, we had dinner late in the city, maybe had a date, maybe not. That's fine. Look, but if I did that, if I got up at 5 and came home at 10, I'm a normal citizen. I might have been able to run some errands at 5. I might have been able to take a class. I might as well watch a sitcom or go to a movie. But at midnight, your choices of what to do are limited. And then after 2:30, not much happening good. Then all of a sudden, then you're either going to the next level or not. And in the city, you got a lot of, there was Blue Rib, there was a lot of restaurants. So the restaurant culture is kind of built around that. And you don't have to be on time when you're a chef working 80 hours a week because, you got liberty, because you're killing yourself. So if you show up an hour late, it's okay, as long as you're getting your work done. And the pressure is there. And then, the critics. And then you got to perform. Now, if you think about a celebrity chef, interesting phrase, right? We're a celebrity chef. Okay. Think about any other celebrity, a newscaster, a football player, an actor. They all have seasons, and they all have time off. So they can kill themselves, and then a football player, a quarterback, but then he's off for 6 months. Maybe not off completely, he's got to do, but he's got downtime. He's got recoup. Restaurant business, you're never off. And when people are partying and it's holidays, you're killing yourself. So, and then when you're a success, you got to keep the ratings up. So you got to work harder. When you're quiet, when the restaurant's slow, you got to cut payroll because the margins are so slim. So it's just it's a grueling business. Listen, I love it. Right. But I'm a off-center kind of guy. I'm not normal. Okay. And if you're normal and you're in this business, you're going to struggle. Got to be a little bit
off.
You got to have a renegade can-do attitude.
A rebel.
You got to want to break the rules.
Bourdain was a rebel too, right?
100%. And he's from around here.
He's from Leonia, okay? And I went to the same high school in Leonia where he grew up.
Okay.
So I knew this culture also of drugs.
Right.
And a lot of alienation. These were rich kids. There was a wealthy town. But there was a lot of loneliness. There was a lot of depression, okay? So I felt a little of that.
I didn't know him as a young person. I didn't know him that well.
Yeah.
We did a few TV things together, this and that and the other thing. And then, he was upset when I took the Trump Hotel deal. He had a lot to say about that, which
he did.
Listen, everyone's entitled to speak. He also had a lot to say about Guy Fieri.
He did?
Guy Fieri,
that I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, they had a thing going on. But he had a lot to say about a lot of things.
Okay.
But he did a great job as a writer, and he did a great job for opening people's eyes into what really was behind the scenes in a restaurant. Now, not every restaurant was run like the ones he worked at. Not every restaurant. I remember going to parties after that book came out, and divorcees and housewives asking me if I knew where the drugs were because I was a chef.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So he painted a little bit of a picture.
Kitchen Confidential book was such a big deal.
Well, people thought everybody. If you're working, I was at the River Cafe, Park Ave Cafe. If you're working at a certain type of restaurant, you're not doing drugs. Right. You can't because you have to be on point every night. 3-star restaurant. Well, listen, you can go out on your day off and do whatever. There's plenty of drinking going on, but you're not showing up there doing whatever was going on at whatever. I didn't read the full book. I read 3/4 of it. I know it's a great book. He's a great writer. Yes. He was good on TV because, you know what, he was real Jersey, too.
He was Jersey.
He was Jersey. And he also he really was, matter of fact, this is not a glamorous job. He had the glamorous job.
He did.
He couldn't, play the CNN job anyone would have loved.
Right.
And he did a good job with that. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I don't know this. I don't know him that well. And as far as him having something to say, that's okay. Yeah. We're all entitled to our opinions.
Exactly.
I mean,
You're not bitter at all. You're not bitter.
no. You know what? Even then, listen, we all talk shit sometimes.
Right.
We all have something to say. We're competitive.
Right.
He was probably, I think he was trying to stick up for somebody else that was in that position before I took over.
Right.
And even like Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri, I know Anthony.
Are you and Guy friendly? Are you?
I met him a couple times.
Yeah.
I admire what he does.
Okay.
Mainly what I admire about him is what he does for charity.
Oh.
That's what I like.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know his food. I mean,
Sure.
he's good, certainly good on TV, but he does a tremendous amount of charity work.
What do you think his cholesterol level is?
I mean, that's
You know
what
what? Actually, he's probably in pretty good shape. I mean, I think but he's great on TV.
Right.
And like, I don't watch
Yes.
TV show, cooking shows. So I never, like, we're not home. Like, last thing I want to watch is a cooking show when I get home.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'll watch the stuff I'm on. I think Gordon's pretty good on TV.
Okay.
I like Bobby Flay.
What about Bobby Flay?
I like Bobby Flay. I really do.
Okay.
I've always liked him. We go way back.
Yeah.
And, you know, listen, he works hard, man. The guy's good. He deserves all the credit. He's been at it for 3 decades, maybe 4. I don't remember. Maybe he's a little younger than me.
Yeah.
I remember when he first came to New York.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know what? He's elite. And when I say elite,
Yeah.
he's elite in the TV field of food. He's elite in being a chef for 4 decades in a city like New York.
Okay.
If you can stay in business
Yeah.
for 3 decades, 4 decades, whether it's the same restaurant or staying at the top of your class, you're an elite individual in your field, and that's what he is. So, and he's certainly elite in the TV food,
Right.
but he's also a hell of a chef. You know, he when he wants to, he'd go in and do it, and he works hard. So and I think he's a nice guy now. Some people have said to me, Bobby seems a little low.
Yeah.
I said, well, he's probably, you got to understand, you're working 90 hours a week. He can't take 100 pictures. If a guy's having a date and he says, I'm not in the mood for a picture.
Wow. Now, I'm going to look in the camera now and say something because Claudia knows this, I ran for President of the United States twice. I didn't win. But I was calling on a 25-hour work week because I believe that this country is so overworked, and not just your field, but every field.
Wow.
You know, David, it's like we need more time to be. The French are into relaxation. You know?
Yeah, but they're also not at the top of their field at anything anymore because they're not working that much. That's my side. We're on different sides. But I agree. I'll tell you, I spent a year and a half in an office.
Okay.
In a corporate office. I was still in the restaurant business, but I was on the executive committee of a big company.
Okay.
And when I tell you the amount of wasted hours in that office of people on their computer not working,
Right.
and still getting paid for 40 hours, it could be done in 25.
It can be.
25-hour work
A lot
week
of
is
wasted
great if
stuff.
people go to work and work.
Correct.
But
Yes,
there's not enough supervision because everybody wants to. They're shopping online, but I think something we learned through the pandemic, and I did, because I'm gonna, if I don't see somebody working, I don't think they're working at home. I don't trust it.
Right.
But my company, we did a lot from the Zoom calls, and we trusted people to get their jobs done, and they did.
Right.
So responsible people can get the job done,
I see.
whether it's 25 or 35.
Right.
If you give them the option, but you got to be able to measure. How do you quantify what really got done in a week? You can't, because some jobs you can't tell.
Yeah.
Restaurant bid, we can't do it from home. We got to be here cooking. Now we can teach from home.
Right.
We can do we can organize meetings from home. What we learned is we don't need a corporate office and spend $20,000 a month paying rent on a corporate office when you can trust people to do it from home, or we can use a back room in a restaurant and meet twice a week there, or my house in this case. We use my house as a guest area where we use as our corporate office. So instead of me driving to the city, other people come to me. So why should I be doing all the drive? So it worked out well for us.
Oh.
But the restaurant business, the problem with the restaurant business and work
Yes.
is you need a lot of employees. If I work 60 hours a week, then I only need 10 cooks.
Okay.
So those 10 cooks are going to be consistent.
I see.
If I go half that, then I need 20 cooks. 20 cooks, that means it's not consistent. 30 cooks, even less consistent. Because now I got 4 people making that dish instead of 2.
I see.
So more training.
Yes.
But yes, I think people will be happier. But then you got to pay, prices have to go up.
Wow.
But I'd love to talk to you more about
We'll
it.
talk more into that. We're going to run David Burke for president one day, and we're going to extend the empire.
It's going to be a 6-day work week.
I'll be the Secretary of Labor. No, But David, speaking of that, now we would be remiss if we didn't pay a little homage or a little bit to Mr. Trump, because he did come. You had the BLT, which was in the Trump hotel in D.C., and that's why Anthony Bourdain got mad at you, because you didn't back out of it. But anyway, but Trump would come in, right? And the big controversy about the steak.
Was supposed to take space.
Yes.
He bailed out something Trump said.
I see.
I got hired by BLT as a consultant a few months earlier, and they said, "Would you like to go into the Trump hotel?" Now I knew Trump already because I had cooked on his yacht years and years ago, and then he was a customer of mine.
Sure.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it. Here's what you're ggoing to make. Here's what you're going to do. I'm like, and then a lot of people have a lot to say about me. I don't honestly don't care. I don't care what Bourdain had to say about me going to the Trump, or anybody that had anything to say. If you want to pay me not to go in, go ahead. I'll listen to you. So I mean, business is business. I've got and it's a beautiful hotel. We got great ratings.
Okay.
We didn't get a lot of people. Here's what happened. We go in there. It's a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
There's people that didn't like what Trump did.
Yeah.
This is before he even won.
Right.
I made the deal. We didn't make the deal. And I was there on election night when he won. So we were open before he even was running, or he was running.
I see.
So, the New York, Washington Post, the food writer gave us a really nice and fair review, and I was very pleased, and I thanked them. I mean, I said you're missing half a star, but I'm okay, because people and the other people just didn't write about us because it was so good that you couldn't give us a bad review without looking like you were bashing us. Okay. So we had to be this good to get this good of a review. And people just didn't review us, but they didn't give us bad reviews because it was that good. So we did a great job. So Trump came in, and the big question is, Trump eats well-done steak.
It's supposed to be bad. How
can you cook a well-done steak? So I had one writer one day, right, and he eats ketchup. I said, he ordered steak frites. I don't know I don't sit there and watch it. But I'm sure the fries were for the ketchup. Maybe listen, if you look at A1 sauce, and A1 sauce has ketchup in it. All of those sauces are the same thing. They're condiment-based sauces. They're sweet and sour. So whether or not, anyway. So I said to one writer, I said, "Do you know why he eats well-done steak?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what do you think? He's a moron? That's why he eats well-done steak." I mean, there's got to be a reason he eats well-done steak. You think I mean, if you think eating medium rare steak is the best way to eat it, he's not a stupid man. Yeah. Why do you think he eats well-done steak? They said, "Well, that's disgusting. That he makes you cook it well done." I said, "Let me tell you something. My father makes me cook his steak well done. You think I hate my dad?" Right. I said, "Let me tell you why. My dad and Trump, my dad's a little older than Trump." I said, "You know why? Because when they grew up, they didn't have refrigerators."
Gotcha. Oh, yeah.
Okay? So if you ever got food poisoning when you were a little boy because your steak wasn't cooked all the way, you might like well-done steak. And that's exactly why he eats well-done steak. Like 3/4 of the world, or maybe 85% of the world, eat well-done steak because of lack of refrigeration and transportation when they were young boys and men. My dad told me he used to use a windowsill as an ice box in the winter. Right? Now, if you think of that, and think about 1935 or 1940, you had an ice box. You had an ice cube in a box, and he used to tell me the guy used to carry it up with the thing. And but forget that. So you got your food at home. Think about what a restaurant was like. Think about a delivery truck or the supermarket. They didn't have adequate refrigeration. So the spoil time was quick. Think about how it got from the slaughterhouse on a train. So you cooked well-done meat for bacteria killing, and so that you didn't get sick. And that's why once somebody gets used to it, and I said to him, it's a good fact. Doesn't mean I eat medium rare steak or medium, depending on what kind of cut it is. But well-done meat tastes better. Because you caramelize it. Look at pot roast, short ribs. Most burger places cook well done, but burger has a lot of fat. But the key statement is this. If you have a really good prime steak, there's enough fat in there, even well done, it's still juicy. Not killed, but if you cook all the red out of it, you should still have moisture content in if you have a good steak. Now, if you start with a shitty steak, you're going to end up with a really shitty steak, well done. If you start with a good steak, well done, it'd still be a good steak. Not as good as perhaps medium. Really, the temperature for a steak is medium rare to medium. That's when the marbleization melts at about 138 degrees or 140. Not rare.
Wow.
Rare steak, the marble does not melt yet,
Right.
and it doesn't melt on your tongue. So it melts at 140. I'm not exactly right. Between that medium rare to medium. So when that starts to melt, that's when the juice content. That's where, from a technical standpoint,
Okay.
that's when you should eat it if you want succulence and melted flavor. But again, who am I to tell you? But the caramelization, when you brown a steak, and like roast beef, turkey skin, and ham on the outside, all that crispy caramelized stuff, the sugar gets so intense. So you want to get caramelization on steak. Caramelization occurs in well done, even in the interior, but it's all about. The problem with well done meat is the dryness, not the flavor. No one argues that. So it's all about anyway. So I told the writer that day, and she was like, "I never even thought." I said, "But sometimes, as journalists, you should think about why someone eats something like this. Like, why do Japanese people eat raw fish? I don't know, maybe there's a history there. Maybe they didn't have enough coal. Maybe they didn't. Maybe you know what I mean. Maybe they didn't have enough fuel to cook stuff. I don't know. They're an island. I don't know. Maybe it's easier to, but there's always reasons. That's why some of my creativity comes in. I dig to the root of the why, and some of it makes sense. Like, why is there pickle on a hamburger?
Right. Why?
Digestive.
Okay.
Same as sauerkraut is on a hot dog, right? The same. Anything fatty usually has acid or sugar added. All of the sauces on your door in your refrigerator, whether it's hoisin sauce, barbecue sauce, steak sauce, ketchup, pickles, those type relish, they're all for digestive aids. Anything like that, because they're all condiments, and they're preservatives. They're like jams and stuff. They're all things that can last, and they also aid in digestion. So.
I got a feeling culinary schools are going to be studying this episode. They're going to be assigning this for homework, Chapter 4, caramelization of beef.
Well, but when you understand that stuff, you can build. If an architect understands the foundation, a square foundation works because of this, then maybe he can do a triangle. Then maybe he can do a circular one.
Yes.
But you can't build upon something if you don't know the basic fundamentals of what you're dealing with, And when the science comes into play, then the whys and the why nots work real quick in your head. Like, okay, let's do this. We don't have to do applesauce with the pork chop. Let's do mango. Let's do it this way. Let's play around with it. We don't have to do oranges with the duck just because it's traditional, and mint with the lamb, or couscous with this. There's reasons, and then listen, we live in a great country. We're allowed to break the rules when it comes to tradition, right? People still want to see that big turkey on the table.
Right.
It's the worst possible way to cook it. But you can't fight tradition. I believe in tradition. But if you're smart, you would take the legs off separately, cook them, and try to do something different. But, I'm not here to change the world. I tried to change the way I present my food, which I was very good at. But when it comes to the kind of car people, the way they drive, or the way they want to eat desserts, it makes me crazy that people eat a cake this big at a steakhouse after they had a steak this big, and like cheesecake at a steakhouse. You know why I created Cheesecake Pops? Because it bugged me that people ate a whole big cheesecake after a big steak. I wanted something light and easy and shareable.
Right. Oh, okay.
And that's how that came up.
I see. But what is, you talk about in terms of nutrition and all that, and obviously steak, we want to just tell our audience, steak is great once in a while. Don't make too much a habit out of it, because, that could lead to health problems too, right? I mean, what is the nutritional responsibility of a chef, of a celebrity chef, in terms of like healthy diets, and how does that come into play?
We have no nutritional responsibility.
No nutrition. Okay.
I don't think we do. I think our responsibility is to write a well-balanced menu with choices so that people come to our restaurant. But we're not responsible how they eat, what they eat, and this and that, nor would we tell them. But we're responsible to know about allergens. We should know about nutrition, sanitation, of course, but nutrition, and we should offer a menu that has options for those, but we can't. Our responsibility can't be to tell people how to eat. It would be nice. I mean, you can try. We always have vegan options. We have gluten-free options. We have fat-free options, and it depends on the style of restaurant which you can do that. But I think a good chef writes a menu with that without even knowing anymore, because we write menus.
Yeah.
If it's a steakhouse, you got to have some lean cuts. You got to have some. We used to be able to call it female-friendly dishes. I don't think you can call it that anymore. But healthier options, smaller cuts of meat, steamed fish, not so much béarnaise, hollandaise, cream spinach. Yes, but then we need steamed spinach. You got to give people. We need to offer options, not be responsible for.
I see.
Yeah, and if you go down to New Orleans, man, you're not getting. It's harder to find a healthier meal based on the culture, right? The cream sauces, the Cajun, the Creole, and there's something about that, And if you go to a sushi restaurant, you're most likely gonna feel good when you leave, because you're not dealing with all the butter, the cream, But sometimes I had a great meal in Jersey.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, and 4 courses, right portions, and I was driving home and I mentioned to the person I was with, I was like, I feel good.
Oh yeah.
So that's really a good compliment, because it was enough. It was they portioned it for us. It wasn't like I ordered a porter. And sometimes that is really important, because we overeat and we shop with our eyes. When you sit down and say, "Oh, give me the porterhouse, hash browns, this and that," and the waiter's like, "Yes, check," because they make more money the more they sell, obviously. And the owners want them to sell food. I mean, that's their job. But I think it's changed a lot. The chef has to wear many hats these days when it comes to knowledge. Years ago, it wasn't the chef's job to know all the allergies and the calories and whether this was gluten-free and this and it all falls on the chef. The chefs have taken responsibility more so than restaurant managers sometimes, and owners. Sometimes they're the same. And I'm not saying restaurant in every case.
Yeah.
But the decision making on writing menus and the style of restaurant and all that. So there's a lot. The job has changed many times over the last 40 years.
Now, just when you mentioned dad and steaks in that category, my dad was a butcher when he was a young man.
Wow.
And he had a butcher shop in Teaneck, New Jersey, which was put out of business by a meat-o-rama that opened across the street. That just knocked him out of business. But after that, he became a painter and an activist.
Wow.
He helped to save the New Jersey Palisades here from being developed.
Oh, really?
So I have that sort of in my background. And then in terms of food, I have an Uncle George who was a blue-collar guy, a truck driver, but a kind of a blue-collar aristocrat, I would say. He always felt it was important for the family to know about restaurants, to know about New York especially. And I'll never forget, I was just a little kid, and he took us all over to the Four Seasons. And there he was, watching us all at the table, making sure we picked up the right spoon. And this was back in the 70s when the truck drivers had the Teamsters, and he could afford. But Four Seasons is very pricey, of course. And even
that was a great restaurant, though.
Yeah.
That was when I was a culinary student in 1980. They were the ones that did spa cuisine. They were the first ones that started doing spa. Well, they had all the fashion icons eating there, and the Vogue writers and all that stuff. So New York's great. The tradition's great too. I mean, I hate to see Four Seasons, 21 Club go out of business. It's crazy.
Yeah. What when you were younger, coming up? I mean, what was your awareness of the food world in terms of Julia Childs? Did you ever watch her on TV or anything like that? When I was a kid, I'll never forget. I used to watch The Galloping Gourmet. Graham Kerr.
I met him a few times.
Did you?
In my early days. He was a character, nice man.
Okay, yeah.
Full of pep,
Okay.
I think he was from the West Coast, Seattle or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
When the Food Network first started, I met him a few times.
Okay.
I think he had a winery or something too. Anyway. I grew up, I knew nothing about food. I had healthy food at home. My dad was a train driver in New York City, but he also ran, oddly, he became a marathon runner.
Really?
In his spare time, he would work out. In the 70s.
Okay.
No one in my neighborhood jogged.
Yeah.
So my dad's jogging.
Look
He
at that.
he didn't, he wouldn't go to college. He didn't play high school track. He just started running like Forrest Gump, man. He'd be running. I'd be cutting school 20 miles away, and there's my dad like at a reservoir. I'm like, oh. So anyway, he went on to win one time gazillion trophies.
Okay.
Serious runner.
Yes.
So we ate healthy at home. We didn't have no sugar, no skim. We had skim milk, no processed foods, no cold cuts, no soda, no candy. And we were like, this sucks. As kids, we're like, what's happening here? Right. None of my friends would sleep over. They're like, no Captain Crunch. No, we had like Total. We had granola. We had stuff that is mainstream today.
Sure.
So he was a little smart that way.
Okay.
So we had fresh food, but we never went out to dinner. I mean, pizza once in a while. Burger King opened in my neighborhood. My dad was like, "Dude, you're not going there. Don't eat this."
Wow. Okay.
But no, he would never. He'd eat pickled vegetables.
Sure.
And we'd have fresh. We lived by the Jersey Fish. We had fish.
Yeah.
We had fresh vegetables, and we had canned veggies too. I mean, that's what we ate, the corn, but in the summer we had the fresh stuff. But my mom made fresh meats.
Okay.
Corn, pork chop, beef, steak, whatever. But we ate.
Yes.
Healthy food. We didn't have bread and butter at every meal. It was like, it was 4 kids. So I didn't know anything about restaurants.
Right.
My mother worked in a hotel.
Okay.
That's how I got the job as a dishwasher.
Ah.
It had nothing to do with my mother was not, I didn't sit on her lap while she cooked. My grandma, I think the only.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless my mother.
Yeah.
And she's a good cook now after the kids all left.
Okay.
But when we were kids, man, she could. Thank God for applesauce. This saved my life. I was like, is this corduroy or is it pork? Mom's
Oh my God.
But she didn't learn. It's a lot of work cooking at home. I learned that during the pandemic. I started cooking at home with a puppet, making a TV show. And I would go shopping. I'd never shop for my own food in the house because I've always been a chef.
Okay.
Shopping, cooking, cleaning, dishwashers, garbage. Wow.
Right.
It's a lot of work. And I was only cooking for 2 people. Now, you do 6 people, 1 meal a day, 3 meals a day. I was calling my mother, I can't believe how much work you did. I can't believe how hard it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm cooking more extravagant stuff, but still, and I'm an expert.
Right.
But to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus snacks for 6 people in the house, do the shopping.
Right.
We took the garbage out, but then the dishes, it's a full-time job. Easy. So all the moms out there, all the housemakers, homemakers who cook at home and raise kids, peace.
God bless.
And go on vacation. Make reservations. I won't cook your steak. Well done.
Well, there's that old-fashioned, that Jewish joke. How does a Jewish mother call the family to dinner? Get in the car.
Yeah. But going out to dinner is great experience. You learn a lot.
Yes, it
you learn a lot from
is.
traveling. You learn a lot from interacting
Yes.
with different cultures. You
Yes.
learn a lot from going out to restaurants. And not more importantly, you're in a restaurant. You're with your family. If you are,
Yes.
that's one thing terribly missing in this country right now.
Right.
It's family time.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
around the table, put the phone away.
Yes.
That's
Wow.
what, and that's what brings people together. Food and conversation.
Conversation
and
is the key.
And if you go to a nice restaurant and you dress up a little, all of a sudden this feels good.
Yeah, and especially when the celebrity chef is in the room and he's making the round.
And he's not
There's a
cursing.
little
And
excitement.
he's not angry
He's not
with-
cursing. But at least if David Burke is in the room, now the food is going to be extra. No slip-ups that day.
Well, when you're present,
Yes.
people are on their A game, and that's just like it's like students in school. When the teacher walks in or the principal's in the class, you're not messing around, right?
Wow.
When the bus driver's off the bus, the bus goes crazy, right? When the bus driver comes back in, you're like,
Right.
So that's
This
just
is a
human
man
nature.
so dedicated to his work that there was a rumor that President Trump wanted you to be the White House chef, and you actually could have had that job. But you said no. You wanted to do this. This is your world.
I didn't like the color of the house. No. You know what? Listen.
Yes.
When I grew up, I cooked with the White House chef. His name was Henry Holler.
Okay.
And we did a few dinners together. And to be the chef at the White House when I was a student, man, that was what a prestigious job, right?
Yes.
You know, older, honestly, I was just too busy because I owned businesses.
Yeah.
And it's something you can't just do for your resume. I don't need it for the resume, but it's an honor that even the thought was there.
Yes.
And that I could have did it. I probably could have did great. But the fact is, they don't really eat there that much.
Yeah.
I don't think they. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
Right.
There's no exposure.
Okay.
If I was older and wanted something to do for a term or so, you know what? You never know. There's always interesting jobs out there.
Exactly.
That's another brilliant thing about the restaurant the food career in hospitality is that the types of roads it can lead you to. Like I've been to 26 different countries.
Wow.
As a guest chef, consultant.
Wow.
Working job, traveling, or student. And these hands have taken me around the world. That's pretty amazing. Because food is international.
Yes.
Right? And there's a lot of respect for chefs around the globe. We have this kind of if I walk into a restaurant and people know I'm there, like they'll send you something or we'll do the same thing. Even if it's a chef from Dublin or something we never met, it's like, oh yeah, here's this card. Yeah, chef. It's like it's hospitality 101. And that's what gets missing sometimes in the modern day restaurant is that if you start thinking about bottom line before hospitality, you're not there for the real purpose. The purpose is to make people feel good. You still got to make money. It's a business. But the whole idea is making sure that you're giving something to somebody at the fair price.
Yes.
You're making your money, but they're also getting their value and leaving happy. So it's a win-win.
Okay. Listen, I got Joe Biden on the phone here. Joe, do you still have that opening there in the kitchen? We got Mr. David Burke with us.
Actually, I met Biden and I just saw the picture. I met him at the Russian Tea Room.
Oh,
had to be
classic.
about 7-8 years ago. I don't know what it was for. He was VP at the time. So I don't know what it was for, but there's a picture of me and some other friends with Mr. Biden at the time.
I see. Okay. Given that you're such a busy man, Claudia and I like to talk a lot about love on the show. I mean, if it wasn't for our love and it wasn't for her love and belief in my biggest dreams, this show would not exist. As a partners, as husband and wife team. Does this restaurant business thing, how does that allow you to have a personal life? I mean, how does that work out in terms of,
That's a really good question because as of lately, I'm single. I don't really have time to date. Not that I won't try, but because I got a real full plate and my work comes first. My kids are older now; they're all out of college, and I was divorced very young.
Okay.
Probably a lot of it due to the business. And I think it's one of the highest divorce rates in any profession. I think pilots are up there.
Right. Oh, yeah. Wow.
For good reason, I guess. Flying into different cities and staying in hotels, I get. Yeah. But it's a grueling thing. But also, there's a lot of great relationships. You can meet a lot of people. I think you got to understand the game. Like I said, if we can change the hours a little, and you get to a certain point, there's a lot of passion. But again, you're spending a lot of, when the traditional marriage, the 9 to 5, raising kids, weekends for the soccer and all that, it doesn't exist for the chef, right? Because you got to work on the weekends. So the family has to be re-looked at because you're not home at night. So what appears nice, when someone marries a chef, all of a sudden he's never home. He's not helping with the kids. He can't go to the graduation, or he can't go to the soccer game, or he can't help me with this, or I got to go to the wedding alone for my sister because Saturday night he's busy or he's working at the club. So that gets old quick.
Especially when chefs become rock stars, which is what we...
Well, that's another interesting thing, because I meet people now, and they're like, well, you must meet... I said I meet a ton of people. But, I don't hang out where I eat.
Yes.
And, you get to a certain age, I'm not going to hang around here.
Right.
Ventanas is very young and sexy, right? When it comes to the clientele.
Temptation.
I'm like the oldest guy in the room. No, I'm out of here. I go down to Brumson.
I got you. Okay.
Have you met Bruce Springsteen?
Yes. Many times.
How did that go?
He's a great guy. I haven't seen him since pandemic.
Okay.
But when I used to own the restaurant down there, he'd come in.
Yeah.
And happy to say I know him. And first of all, I love his music.
Right.
And he's a gentleman. And he's he's a down earth guy. And he always ordered the chicken. I'm always like, why do you always order chicken? He goes,
Really?
And he has that voice. Goes, But I met his wife. I know Patty. I met his.
Okay.
And he's part of the he moved further out into the Colts Neck area. He was in Rumson for a while, and
Right.
so since we've opened Red Horse, I have not seen him there yet.
Okay.
But I know we know mutual friends, and
I see.
and now you're in the same area where Bon Jovi lives,
Right.
and I think Max
The governor-
Weinberger's down there, the
governor,
governor.
yeah,
He comes to Red Horse quite a
Okay.
bit. Nice guy, like him a lot actually.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
And then with 1776, we got Governor Christie comes in all the time because he's
Christie,
down the
oh,
road.
boy.
And
Does he like
no, he's here a lot is Senator Menendez.
Senator
Very
Bob
friendly
Menendez,
with,
good man, yes.
He's friendly with Alex Duran here too.
Okay.
So, and I just got invited to. So we do fundraisers for both sides.
I see. Why
We
not?
feed both sides, and we.
Okay. How does
But I think
yeah.
Murphy, and I always said he
Yes,
did a
yes.
good job with the pandemic.
Gotcha.
At the beginning, we all were upset with him
Yeah,
when the restaurant business. When I said I'm in a restaurant, I was on the committee for the New Jersey restaurant.
Oh.
But we, you know what? We got open that second week of June on the beach in the beach area, even though it was 25% or whatever it was. But it was better than what happened in New York City.
Okay.
So so it's got to be hard to govern like this. I mean, it can't be easy.
But does Chris Christie put ketchup on his steak? That's what we want to know.
No, I don't think he. No, I don't.
go there.
No, and he brings his
right.
family. And I know his wife Mary Pat, and I met her from the Food Network, so she's a bit of a foodie.
Okay.
And so he's happy to see me. He's always in a good mood, and
Okay,
nobody
okay.
likes food. We talk about.
I see.
The
Okay.
energy of a restaurant.
I see.
And you know what? Listen, that's a New Jersey, like you said, back to Jersey.
Jersey,
the
baby.
pride in Jersey.
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
even when I went to college, they're like, "You're from Jersey."
Yeah.
That was like, well, it was like, like where? Like what exit?
What exit on the turnpike?
And I'm like, and they're like, well, where do you work? I said, no, I worked in this great restaurant.
okay.
But what happened over the last 20 years in Jersey,
Yeah.
in the food world,
Yeah.
people get tired. All the New York, not all, many of this Jersey chefs live here.
It's you and Bourdain with the two biggies too.
Yeah, well, Calicchio's from Jersey. So is Rocco. Oh no, Rocco might be. So is Alice Waters.
Okay.
There's a few chefs anyway. I mean, Tom's out in the Hamptons or somewhere
Okay.
in the city now. But it's the blue collar mentality
love
of
it.
going into New York
love
City
it.
Yes.
and taking our piece.
Little chip on
You
the
know,
shoulder,
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
have it,
No,
because
yeah.
we were put down for so long that you gotta, it's our time now.
Well, you gotta listen. When you land in New Jersey, you drive through the Jersey Turnpike, and you see the refineries and
Not the whole state.
and it used to smell.
Yeah.
But then, listen, there's more horses in Jersey than there is Texas. Great fact. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there's a lot of racetracks, but so what? But there's so much nature here.
Yes,
It's called the Garden
unbelievable.
State.
For a reason.
It's not called the Refinery State.
For a
It's called the
reason.
Garden State. But then you have the Jersey Shore show, the Sopranos show,
know.
the Housewives shows.
I know.
So we're going to get our own show. We're going to do some kind of that.
Yes.
I was telling you about the educational part.
Gotcha.
I want to do an educational show in Jersey that brings kids up through the ranks and gets them money to go work in New York. The problem with Jersey and the restaurant business,
Sure.
if you're a good kid living in Monmouth County, Bergen County, anywhere, and you want to go work for Daniel Boulud or one of the greats in New York, who probably pays well, but not a lot, you can't commute in and out and get home at a decent hour because of the mass transit. You get home at 4 in the morning or whatever it is, and you can't afford an apartment. So we got the school I want to do is develop this training skill set they can go, but I also want to get a scholarship program going so that they can go afford to get an apartment in New Orleans to work for Emerald,
Nice.
in Chicago to work for Great,
Right.
Wolfgang Puck, and these guys offer them jobs, but they need the airline ticket money and the money to get an apartment so they can be set up for success. Because you can't commute in and out of New York and try to and be happy unless you can work 80 hours a week, but you can't work 80 hours a week and commute 30. It doesn't work, and you can't afford it. So we're so close, but yet so far. It's only a bridge away. We gotta bridge the gap a little bit, and that's what I want to do.
David Burke is a man of ideas, Claudia just flashed the 2-minute sign. the time has gone so quickly, and but I think we did cover a lot about leadership and creativity, and this has been a wonderful dialogue. I'm actually in a doctoral program now in educational leadership at Drexel University, and that's one of the things that sort of brought me to you. And there's more talk about in terms of leadership and creativity going together. So I see that in your biography very much so. But in the time left, David, quick mountains to climb in the future. You want to just hopes for going forward. What's next?
Listen, we're hoping that the pandemic gets put behind us. We're also hoping that the education process, taking younger people within my organization and getting them up, whether they stay with us or not, is really the goal. And watching the younger people grow and understanding why they do what they do, and teaching them to appreciate the work, but also balance in life. And because that's something missing in the industry.
Wonderful, and in our country today too, sir. So thank you so much for being with us today. It has been a joy and a pleasure. David Burke, one of the leading culinary experts in our country and in our world, and a great personality and wonderful charisma and presence.
Thank you.
And we are so delighted to be with you, and all the best going
Thank
forward.
you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.